I would say your investment in paid digital media right now is the single most important dollar investment a company can make right now before talent, before anything else. It is the largest sounding board in the world, and if your voice is not on there, whether new product or existing product, you inevitably will find yourself challenged to make ends meet and ultimately go out of business.
Hello everyone, welcome to Building a Better CAC by Commexis, a podcast dedicated to connecting the space between your revenue goals and sales and marketing initiatives. I'm Matthew McGroarty, the social media content producer here at Commexis.
I'm Len Ward, the managing partner at Commexis.
So today we're taking a deeper look at the customer acquisition cost and certain things that do or do not take part in it and what we can do to improve the CAC. So first, Len, can you very briefly tell me what the CAC is again for our listeners?
Customer acquisition cost is how much it costs to acquire your customer or client. And there's historically two parts in the customer acquisition cost. It's what you're investing in sales and what you're investing in marketing.
So one common question we get asked is, how much of your CAC has to be digital marketing?
I think that comes back to the whole, what's the current bidding environment? What is my sales process? What does my marketing funnel look like? Again, you know, your customer acquisition cost, if you are in dire need of leads and you're in that survival mode, you may really be living heavy in Google AdWords or purchasing leads. But at the end of the day, if somebody were to say, well, Len, just give me a baseline, 25% of your customer acquisition cost should be invested in digital spend as an absolute entry point. That does not mean, okay, well, that's the max we're going to go. No. There's companies we've done audits for where 40, 50, 60, 70, 85% of their customer acquisition cost is all digital spend because they have a really small sales process. They don't really have a sales team. Their sales process is all digital. But at the bare minimum, somebody said, okay, it's 25%, or somebody said, give me a baseline. It's 25%. You have to allocate, if there's $100 in your customer acquisition cost, $25 has to go to Google and Facebook, LinkedIn, and so forth right now.
And why is that so important?
It's critical to understand because you have to understand that the average person is spending hours upon hours on their phone daily. So your prospective client is, they're not riding on a subway right now or a bus. Maybe, I don't know how well this podcast will age as the pandemic goes away. So, looking at things like traditional ad spend, like on billboards and so forth, may not necessarily be the way to go about it. Your individual, I think the latest numbers out of eMarketer were almost 3 hours were spent on social media alone. Do you know how long 3 hours is on social media? If you think about Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, your ad dollars need to be there because this is exactly where the eyeballs are. They're not going to, they're not going to the trade show. Unfortunately, a lot of them, aren't really looking at the billboards and so forth. So that's why it still needs to be digital. The caveat is you still need to have some traditional dollars there. I still believe in print. I still believe in a couple things. But that's why it's so important where your customer acquisition cost starts with the investment in paid digital spend.
Yeah, as many people have said for the last couple decades, we're becoming a digital world. Yeah. You have to be there because that's where everybody is, and I think that makes a lot of sense.
I think within a decade or two, our entire globe has moved. It might be a little excessive, maybe 3 decades or less. Everything will be digital. I'm talking the farthest corners of the earth that you never thought would be digital will be digital at that point.
So there's this sentiment that if you're trying to reduce your CAC, and historically speaking, people immediately go to digital marketing and marketing budgets and slash those to try and make it less expensive for them to be operating their business. What is wrong with that idea?
And that's historically where companies are, is that they immediately walk right into the customer acquisition cost, or they just immediately, whenever times are going bad or things aren't going well or they need to raise capital, what they'll do is we're going to cut the marketing budget, we're going to cut the sales budget, and that's what we're going to do. The problem is that with everything moving digital right now, the way you market to prospective clients, the way you're marketing to existing clients, it's all on a digital platform, or it's becoming a digital platform. So you no longer can put paid digital on the table and say, hey, we're going to take this off the table because, we have other things we have to do right now. So you're going to pretty much rely on your salesperson just calling that individual and hoping and praying that a couple emails back and forth will get a deal done. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. You still have to start thinking about things like you got to geofence those individuals. You have to develop an email drip campaign to those individuals. You have to digitally create great content for the existing client to come back to you. So in years past, you could always lean on traditional methods that were a little cheaper and get rid of digital marketing or digital spend within the customer acquisition cost. Now with everybody kind of moving directly to digital, those days are done. I would say your investment in paid digital media right now is the single most important dollar investment a company can make right now before talent, before anything else. It is the largest sounding board in the world, and if your voice is not on there, whether new product or existing product, you inevitably will find yourself challenged to make ends meet and ultimately go out of business. For the first time in history, this is what's scary, that your ad platforms are now 100% controlling every single thing your business does. That's what's frightening right now about what's going on. It's not about the privacy and everything else. It's that's scary. And when you start looking at it that way, that like, whoa, I can't really touch my digital spend in a CAC, or I really have to look at my CAC in a different light. Like it's that important. It's at that point you now realize that that job that normally takes 3 people to do, now it's got to take 1.5 people to do. That company car that was a Mercedes is now dropping down to something else, and so forth. Like you have to really think differently in how your customer acquisition cost is built and expenses that you're ready to cut. Quite honestly, because Google and Facebook, again, the largest sounding boards in the world, are calling the shots. You're not anymore.
So what are the costs that some people don't think of that are in the CAC?
I mean, some of the costs people don't think about, again, is the time you spend with an existing client. Like how much time are you spending with a prospective client? How long are you spending with them to try to eventually get them to a meeting or, to maybe close the deal? Sometimes free offers, discounts, 20% off, or maybe like a free trial, and so forth. Other things that are routinely not included in the customer acquisition cost. One of the things we hear a lot is donations and sponsorships. Like that's amazing how many times companies does that count? Yeah, it counts. If you're going to sponsor a golf course, or sponsor a golf tournament, it is. Or donating somewhere with your name on there. There's these little small things that are all built within the customer acquisition cost that a lot of people don't really think about. Another classic one is, a lot of people have constant contact, and it might only be like $50 to $180 on the month, maybe more. That's normally, I didn't think that was it. Any single solitary thing that's assisting the sale and conversion of your product is in your customer acquisition cost. So if an individual does come back to you as a client, anything it took to get that individual counts as well. It does not mean the delivery of your product, the maintenance of your product. It's just, again, where an exchange of cash is happening either on a one-time basis or a reoccurring basis. That's your customer acquisition cost.
Absolutely. Well, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about what we believe is one of the largest hidden costs of the CAC, which is prospective client interaction, we're going to be covering that in our next episode, so definitely stay tuned for that. That's all for today's episode of Building a Better CAC. Check us out on Commexis.com, YouTube, and anywhere you get your podcasts, and follow us on Twitter @Commexis. Thanks for tuning in.